Francis Ngannou had a training video that came out, and it was just him kicking. But he was using the leg that was injured to kick with. And this story doesn't stop happening. If a guy goes out with an injury and the world knows about it, he'll do something, he'll demonstrate in some way that injury is healed. What do you think about that? Is that what you would do? And I'll only offer for you. Francis looks like he's 300 pounds. I mean, that's a terrifying proposition, right? Francis is just a terrifying proposition. A 300-pound Francis just made it a more terrifying proposition. So, terrifying colloquial terms, of course, don't mean for myself. But I'm sharing with you that story. I've seen that movie 100 times. I've read that book 100 times, where somebody gets hurt that's in the public eye, and then they'll let the public know. And through social media, it's a pretty easy thing to do. Francis just did it. He made a video using that leg. Okay, everything's right. You're supposed to tell a story. I'm good with it. I'm just asking what you think. Because first off, there's a peer pressure to it. For sure, there is a pressure to come out and show and demonstrate where you're at. And there's a side of me that has to question that and go, why would a terrifying person be peer pressured into anything? I just asked the question. Secondly, it's none of our business. How you feel and what you're dealing with is none of our business. If you would like to tell us, that's okay. I wouldn't begrudge you, but you don't owe it to us. That's all that I would offer. And third and moreover, if you just had a leg, in this case it was leg, if you just had a leg surgically repaired, why are you using it? Have you guys ever thought of that? Where do you stand up? Put yourself in that spot. If you went out there and you just had surgery on a leg, would you go into the gym and start kicking with that leg? If you did, would you understand where I would have the right to come out and tell you you're a fool? Or are you on the other side of it? No, I'm most certainly not a fool. This leg is stronger than ever. Who cares if it is? How much did you use that leg in the first place? I mean, right, this is a very real question. How much were you kicking and using and kneeing and penetrating off of? How much did you ever use that leg in the first place? That's a very reasonable question by me. Is that a weapon that you must have? Is that a weapon? Is that a piece of your armor before you go into battle? You got to make sure it's sharp. Or is it one you can deal with how? That's a very reasonable thing for me to ask. It's not the assumption that anybody would come to on their own. You'll come to that assumption now that I brought it to the forefront of your mind, but let's just have this conversation. I mean, let's just think about that. Because I've seen guys in live battle. There was a night. Uriah Faber was throwing elbows on his feet. And Uriah knew, like if I went and watched 10 Uriah fights, I wasn't guaranteed to see an elbow. But I might have seen one over the whole collection of the fights. He's in this fight. Boom, boom, boom. He's throwing elbows. He's fighting Mike Brown. It turned out he broke his hand. Uriah couldn't use his hand. So on the fly, he just starts turning it into elbows. And I only share that with you like that's a really honorable thing. Most, they break their hand like Uriah did. They're done. I'm out of here. And you'll tell your story and the x-ray will come out and nobody would question you. Uriah didn't even grimace. He just starts throwing elbows instead of jabs. I mean, it was just this thing of honor. This is like in 2008 and I still remember it. It was such a powerful thing. I watched Sean O'Malley. I never found out what the injury was, but it was something with his leg. I mean, he was out there like the Karate Kid, hopping around on one foot. He couldn't use his leg. He finished the fight anyway. Now, I'm not sharing with you that you have to do those things. I'm just saying that injuries do happen, and there are guys. Uriah Faber, Sean O'Malley, as examples that push through it right there on the spot. Now, let's say it was prior to the contest. That's a different situation. But if there was something wrong, if this is the profession you're in, if this is what you're going to go and do you have to rely on that? I mean, if it's a lead leg, I'm just asking, how many fights, how many sequences of fights were ever set up with a lead leg of Francis? Was there ever one? Your back leg would be very important, particularly as a wrestler. I could tell you got to drive off it. It'd be very relevant. And I'm not questioning Francis. I'm creating a conversation here. In his fights, how many times did you count on that leg? How many times? I saw him in the gym. Powerful kicks. He's powerful kicking today. But if I went back and watched the body of his career, I can't remember a time I've ever seen him use that weapon. So why do I have to sharpen it? Why do I have to fix it? Why do I have to risk a leg that I just had surgery on? Why do I have to strengthen it? And why in the hell do I feel compelled to let the world know that I have? I'm just asking the question. I don't think this is going to stop. Chris Weidman had a much more severe injury, and he's still coming back for it. But I have a feeling before he does, at some point, somebody within the team is going to want to get out of camera and film him using that leg. I just think that they will. Might just see it all the time. Conor is out with an injury. I think that he'll use it, demonstrate something when he comes back. I mean, I could keep going. And I'm just wondering why. How come? Do I not want my opponent to know that I have a bad leg? How come? Why do you want him to not know? Is he going to attack it? Is there techniques that he have? Is that an aggressive thing? Is that something that could ail you? Is that something the commission's going to have to deal with? Does a promoter want to see this? Is your mom and dad not sure they want you to go out there until you demonstrate your leg's good? Like, all of these things are very good answers, but you're not compelled to give us any of them. As a matter of fact, until the video came out, I forgot that's why he was sitting in the first place. So what part of that leg has to be so strong that it's worth going in the gym and it's worth risk, it's worth kicking with? I mean, I'm going to think that's weird. If I'm a father and my son is with a guy and I'm standing on the outside, I'm just watching, right? I stay out of this business. My son out there, he's with his coach. Trust this coach. And the coach knows my son's leg is hurt, but the coach makes my son use the leg that he knows is hurt. I'm going to go with coach. Why do you go with a different strategy? I wouldn't say that. I would stay the hell out of it, but why wouldn't you go with a different strategy? Coach, that leg is hurt. Why are you having him use it? Well, showing that it's strong again. But I don't need to show that it's strong again. It's already been shown that it can be compromised. And not a maybe, not sort of. The world saw that part of his body can be compromised. Do you think the squeeze is worth it? So we've only got two options. Do you think we should spend time strengthening that and getting that back when it's not a weapon he uses anyway? Or do you think that we should use that exact same amount of time to come up with other strategies that don't involve the compromised leg? It's an interesting question. I'll give myself credit. It's an interesting question. But what would you do? I saw this when I was a young man. I was in the 5th grade. Wrestler in Oregon named Bobby Janice. And Bobby, going into the championships, had a hurt leg. Coach Pittman told him to lead that leg. And everybody else's idea was to hide it, stash it. It's hurt. Get rid of it. Don't have the guy touch it. And Coach Pittman said, and see, they tried to take Bobby out of the tournament. It was an MCL. It was an ACL. Anything that you could do wrong to a leg happened. All of it at the same time. So they want to go put him into surgery and take him out of the tournament. Coach Pittman said, why? What's going to happen to the leg? The doctor said, why aren't you listening? Everything wrong with the leg is already wrong with the leg. And Coach Pittman said, but aren't you listening? If it's already wrong, what difference does it make? If anything that could go bad with that leg is already there, what difference does it make if he goes out and competes? It sounds as though he can't hurt it anymore. And they went with that. Whether you agree with that theory or not, I'm sharing with you, but that influenced me. And then moreover, Coach Pittman told Bobby, lead that leg. And everybody else told Bobby, hide it, stash it, make sure the guy doesn't get it, defend it at all times. And Coach Pittman said, no, let him have the leg. Because now you have your good leg to stand on. It's an interesting theory. It influenced me. I was a young guy when I heard the story. It influenced me. I remember it all of these years later. So there's different ways to look at it, and I don't have a problem with it. I think I was a little bit surprised that one of the more terrifying people that has ever been born, I mean, that's one hell of a statement, one of the more terrifying human beings felt peer pressured to show us that his knee's better. And secondly, what is with the psychology of kicking something with a leg that you just had surgery? Why wouldn't you rest it a little bit? In fact, a little bit, how about you never use it again? Is that a problem? Do you count on it? Do you have other things that you have to use? I don't challenge you or belittle you if you do. I would just wonder. I know with my own body, if I just had surgery, I'm not going to go out and push that body part to the max. In fact, I would do the opposite. I would recover it and I would rest it. And it's just to each his own. I really don't have a judgment here. But it's a real situation. People deal with real injuries and they really feel compelled to tell us, the audience, how that injury is doing. And it would seem as though there's multiple ways to skin the cat. And going out and making that thing super strong and bionic so that you don't have a fear of it. Or you could learn from the lessons of yesterday and not use it as much. That would also be a reasonable approach. What would you do?